in Olukonda in the Oshikoto region some 83 years ago, President Nangolo Mbumba, a modest man of humble beginnings, who started his professional career as a teacher and eventually achieved his ambition to become headmaster, must have thought that he had made it in life. However, destiny had other ambitions for him. Dr. Mbumba would rise through the ranks, occupying different positions in government, from agriculture minister to the minister of finance, the education minister to vice president, and eventually ascending to the highest office in Namibia, that of president, succeeding his long-standing friend and comrade Dr. Hage G. Kengop on Sunday, the 4th of February 2024. Now, true to the values of democracy and transparency and accountability at the Namibian presidency, we now sit down with President Mbumba to talk to us about his journey. Greetings, Your Excellency, and thank you so much for making time for us.
Thank you very much for coming to see me and to talk to me.
Your Excellency, let's please start at the very beginning. Some 83 years ago, on the 15th of August, 1941, Nangolo Mbumba was born in a village in the Oshikoto region. Would you like to please tell us more about your early life, your parents, your siblings, how you grew up?
Yes, it was a really rural area, some kilometers, maybe 7 or 10 kilometers outside Ondangwa. And even in those days, Ondangwa was nothing. It's not the Ondangwa you know now, okay? But Olukonda is the name of the village, and is also the name of the parish, a Lutheran parish. It is the place where a Finnish Lutheran missionary called Matti Rautanen. Later, we called him, or the Olukonda people called him Nakambale, because he used to love to put on a hat all the time.
And he got a local name.
And he got a local name. And that is the place where the Bible was translated into Oshiwambo, in Oshindonga, for the first time, north of Tsumeb. So I respect it, I love it, because that's where my maternal grandfather and grandmother were converted to Christianity. My mother was born there, then us, okay? It is also a traditional area. There is one chief known as Johannes Kambonde Namene. His other name is Shepo Shanamene. That was within the parish of Lukonda. There is also the parish where the late Tatekulu Emmanuel Kauluma Eliphas had his parish. So I respect it as my traditional area. I respect it as my religious area. I respect it as the place where I went to school for the first time. So, and I stick to the rule, whatever other places and other people can claim me, Olukonda is my birthplace.
Thank you for sharing that with us, Your Excellency. Is there a specific highlight of your childhood that you remember fondly and dearly?
I was the first grandchild of my grandparents. At the age of 1, I left my mother's house and father's house to come and stay with them. And I carry the name Nangolo because that's my maternal last name. My grandfather is Jason Shikongo Nangolo. He had only one son, my namesake, Nikanor Nangolo Yashikongo Shanangolo. So Nangolo has been a name in my family. And so, having been the first grandchild of my grandparents, who are, in terms of culture, I don't want to say many things. In terms of culture, they were very well grounded in their own community. Their family connections were fine. But we went through the 50s, 1950s, where there were droughts. and I know how protective they were for me, to make sure that I have food, to make sure that they send me to school, to make sure that everything I needed was there. And even when my father passed on, Erastus Mbumba, I had the protection of my grandparents already. I did not have to suffer. But when it came, as he was working and he could give me, as a younger boy, I had shorts and shirts. But somewhere in the middle there, things become very rare. That at one time, as a schoolboy, I have to borrow the shirt of my grandfather. Just imagine if you have to put on the shirt of your grandfather, means things are very, very scarce. But we survive all that. And when later on I went to the boys' school, from Olukonda to Onipa, it's a short distance. You cross the road, you are on the other side. I did not have a pair of shoes. Then, after staying, because it was a boys' school, it's a boarding school, I stayed there a month or two. When I went to my grandparents, I have to come up with a nicer story. I said, oh, in the classroom, they have these clay floors, and it gets cold. So they say, okay, if it gets cold, we'll do something and give you sandals. So
make a plan for some shoes.
Make a plan for my. So I love them, I respect them, and all of them, my grandfather, my grandmother, my mother, they are all buried at Olukonda Old Cemetery, which is a cultural heritage, together with the building and the church. The first church that was built north of Tsumeb is at Olukonda.
It makes sense, despite many wanting to claim you, that this is where it all started for you, and it still holds such special significance.
I'm glad I have many places else to also not only for them to claim me, but also for me to claim them.
I hear you, Your Excellency.
Yeah, okay.
Absolutely. Now, some 6 years ago, in 2018, when you were appointed as the Vice President, succeeding the late Dr. Nikki Yambo, you told the late President, Dr. Kengop, that Olukonda will now become famous. Little did you know that 6 years down the line, Olukonda could become even more famous. What do you make of that?
Yes, as I told you, I have the advantage and disadvantage of having grown up in a culture which is properly structured, the church hierarchy. You have a pastor, you have a school principal, you have a teacher, you have a village headman, you have a district headman, you have a chief. In those days, rightly, they were called kings because they were the ultimate. When they take a decision for your life or death, a decision is taken. So that's a real king. So when I grew up as a youngster under the protection of my grandparents, but I did not try to look for bigger things, as I said. Being a school principal is above the teacher. And on top of that, I happen to have had some of my best teachers. At Onipa, the school principal was, he later became Reverend Petrus Shipena from the same Olukonda, but he was school principal at Onipa. Later on, when Oshigambo's High School was established, we had a teacher there called Toivo Tironen, missionary who survived World War II, came to Namibia, was not a missionary in terms of church, he was a missionary in terms of education. But he came through the Finnish Missionary Society, and he established a school out of nothing. He did not even have the material to put up the roof over the classroom. But he managed, and he got something. He got some support. And that is why I said, for me to have been elevated to the school principal for 5 long years, but in the bushes of Angola, was quite something.
Am I inferring correctly, Mr. President, that great teachers inspire their pupils to eventually also become great teachers?
Yeah, great teachers inspire people to be whatever they want to be, but they have a positive influence in a way that's saying, you must read, you must study, you must improve your own life in order to improve other people's lives.
What do you think your grandparents and your parents, but also your teachers, would have made of the news that you eventually ascended to the highest office in the land?
Now you are talking. How I wish that at least one of them could have seen. I remember when we came back, at least my mother was alive, okay? And she was the age of my grandmother when I left. And I remember one time I have to take her to Onanjokwe Hospital with my very first car in Namibia, very first car, BMW, I think 315 or something. And so I asked her, Mommy, did you ever thought that I will be able to drive you in a car?
A BMW, moreover.
So, and she said, that was not her concern. Her concern was only that will she ever saw me, having received me back home. That was
the biggest gift.
The biggest gift in terms of thinking about me. Yeah. So that's it.
Mr. President, you've walked us through a couple of experiences on your journey. Is there perhaps a particular teaching, some of the circumstances, some of the lessons that from then that you'd say still serve you well today, that you still use and apply?
Many examples. Many examples. One is to be a team person. When we left Namibia, we were 4 of us. We managed to traverse northern Novamboland then, Kavango then, up to Zambia. That's a teamwork, all of us. We were managed to have reached Lusaka and start going to different schools. And one of my most difficult period was when I got the scholarship to go. There was no other Namibian. I was with 3 South Africans and 2 Zimbabweans. So I was alone. I have learned also to take care of myself. Although when you are, you are a, let us call the word, which I don't want to mention, you are a refugee. You are on your own. You are alone, okay? So you have to learn how to take care of yourself, okay? So we went. But my best really training in terms of dealing with human beings is when I came back from school, from university education, and right in the middle of the 70s, right in the year Kasinga was attacked, right when all our children have to move from southern Angola to the province of Kwanza-Sur in Angola. And within 1 year, as a science teacher, proud science teacher, I was appointed school principal.
For those 5 long years?
No, yes, which took me for 5 long years. And because of that, school principal was also the deputy director for the whole community of Namibians, okay? Because of that, I have to have meetings of the school, meetings of the camp council. We were managing ourselves as if we were a province on our own. We have to manage our things. But then we have to deal with the issue of small children for the kinders, children for the school, mothers, old people, soldiers, some victims of the war, and you have to deal with all those things. And it humbles you to say that And also to say that it is not you who is important, it's the people who are important. And we used to have threats of attack, possible attack. And we have to wake up children as early as 4 o'clock to leave the camp. Because the worst thing is to be attacked in the morning because you were asleep. So that was experience. And I have to deal with some people who have combat experience. I had one, Max Nekongo, he's still alive. He was a councillor of Naena, Oshikoto region at one time. He was shot in here, and the bullet took out his eye. Up to now,
but he survived the attack.
He survived the attack. He has survived the attack. And dealing with those people, what is you? What is you? If you can have people who have been shot in battle and they are working with you, and you are working, we also by then we had our full military training, because you can't survive in the bush like that and have a responsibility over other people's lives, and you cannot even direct them how to protect themselves or how to hide themselves. So the Kwanzaa experience made me a politician.
Thank you so much for sharing that with us, Your Excellency. We'll get to when things started for you in terms of becoming a politician in a bit. Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll take a short break. We'll be right back.
Thank you.
Welcome back to this special broadcast when we are sitting down with the President, Dr. Nangolo Mbumba, to walk us through the highlights of his journey over the past 83 years. Your Excellency, just before we took a brief break, you mentioned the moment you realized that you were to become a politician. Just talk to us about that moment, that realization.
The issue is I was very comfortable as a school principal in my own areas. Then I got a letter, or I was told, now you are become the Deputy Secretary for Education and Culture of SWAPO Party. And of course, I am withdrawn now from the provinces to Luanda.
Did it catch you off guard, Your Excellency?
Yes, not really on guard, because we were now a group of senior school teachers and principals, and we were advising Comrade Naha Sangola was now the Secretary for Education and Culture of the party. Okay, we were giving him advice. I was with the person who became the first permanent secretary in the Ministry of Education, Comrade Vitalis Ankama. He was also a proud bush school principal like me, but in a different place. I said, take another person. And the person we had in mind was Comrade Onesimus Akwenye, a very calm person, a very efficient secretary. He has been school board secretary for many years. So that's it. How they end up choosing me, I don't know. So I went to Luanda. Then we have still dealing with education. We have to campaign for educational material. We are responsible for this and for that. And then one time I was in Berlin, of all places. Berlin, those East Germany then. Just to be told, when you go back, you are no longer going to the ministry, to the Department of Education. Where am I going? You are going to the office of the President, President Nuyoma. I said, I came back, we met at the airport. Comrade Nahas was leaving for another mission. I was coming back. So the only thing he could say was, our team, you go back to the office, but our team is interrupted. So I start working in the office of the President.
Were you a bit nervous about that assignment?
Yes, of course, you have to be. You have to be, because he's a busy person. He has a lot of things to do. I remember doing two things. One, I have to buy myself a briefcase that can lock.
One must look important and look the part.
Just in case I carry some important document, it must be in a bag that you can lock. That's one. Other one, I have to buy a map of the world, so that if we were to travel with President Nyoma, I must know in what part of the world I am,
yes,
so that I can report to headquarters, because there is nothing more difficult than being asked, when you were with President Nyoma, where did you know where you were? So that one. And then luckily, there were some people who came from home, from Namibia, that means. Among them was a veteran freedom fighter, Axel Johannes, well known by everybody. He suffered, he was tortured. Then him and Martin Shirley and I and others, many others, were sent to the Soviet Union then for training. Military, not training for journalism.
Military training.
Military
serious training, in other words, Your Excellency.
Serious training.
I get that, I get it.
And Martin Shirley was our leader, team leader. So when we came back, I still went back to education then, before I went to the office of the president. But Axel Johannes then took my place at the president's office, and the president decided, President Nyoma decided, to send me to Lusaka. Where? To the UN Institute for Namibia. And I remember very well when he sent me off, it was only the two of us in his office. He said, Mbumba, remember, I'm sending you to Comrade Gangop to work with him because he needed somebody in the Department of Education. But remember, you are still under the office of the president.
You report to the president?
I did not report, but I must understand that although I am working having worked in his office, I remain under his office. That nobody can come to me and say, we will transfer you. Only Nyoma can do that. Only the president of the party can do that. And which set the standard. When we start coming home, I was made to work under the director of elections as his advisor, which basically was administrator, but I was given the title of advisor to the director of elections also, which translate later after the election that I become not the permanent secretary you are calling me, but the cabinet secretary. Secretary to cabinet. March is the chief of all permanent secretaries.
Absolutely. It's their boss.
Not the boss, just their
chief.
Their head.
Yeah, very well, Your Excellency.
Good.
What do you remember about that time as not their boss, but just the chief, heading all the other permanent secretaries at the time? What is it that specifically stands out from that time?
The most important thing is when, after the elections, SWAPO was very much proactive and was very much ahead of its time, because people have been preparing for a long time while in exile. Okay. Then there was an institution created after not a program created, which was called Shadow Cabinet. Okay. Shadow Cabinet basically indicate who is going to be responsible for what. There were no ministries. Director of elections is to be responsible for administration. Nothing was said about the office of the Prime Minister. International relations, we know who was there, Theo Ben Gurirab. Information and publicity, Idi Tenya was there. Education, Nahas was there. Health, Dr. Iyambo Indongo and Dr. Libertina Madira were there. So then, under each leader, there was always somebody. I was still under Dr. Gaingop. And together with me was Comrade Petrus Damaseb, now a judge. I have to be respectful. He's no longer just somebody we were in the office with.
Yes.
So that created the opportunity then. And I remember the first time we had, after the government was now formed, after independence, I received a call very early in the morning, on a weekend. And it came from State House. The President Nuyoma want to see me. And then I said, what at that time? It was around 4, I want to see around 6.
On that weekend morning?
On that weekend morning. And then by 5, another call is saying, the President want to see you.
No longer at 6?
It's no longer at 6. And my wife, having shared the same background of exile like me, stand up, get out of this, go to see the President. And I went. And I got my instructions. As I'm leaving Old State House, here come a list of permanent secretaries. One of them was late, the one who was responsible, a huge guy, who was responsible for permanent secretary in the Ministry of Rural and, no, there's no wrong rural, but regional and local government. Shombe is the last name, is Shombe. Yeah. So that time we were still living with the discipline of exile, with the discipline of people who have suffered, with the happiness that we are back home, with the happiness that we got a job. And the issue of competition, which job was better and which job was higher, that has not sunk in yet in us. We were doing what we were told to do.
Now, as significant, Your Excellency, as the events on the 21st of March 1990 were regarding the independence of this country, our independence was not complete. We still needed to get Walvis Bay back, amongst others. Talk to us about the sentiments in 1990 before Walvis Bay was eventually returned and the work that you also contributed to make that happen.
The struggle for Walvis Bay started a long time, okay? Even before Resolution 435, there were already resolutions that indicate the UN system will not accept that Walvis Bay belonged to South Africa. It belonged to Namibia. That one was very, very clear. When we came, and decision that was taken that let us agree to use this opportunity, to use the Resolution 435 and go home. That was a difficult decision taken by our leaders, Sokopo leaders, under the leadership of Dr. Sam Nuyoma. No matter what you say, he was the man, this was meant for that moment. To lead people in exile, to lead people without the necessary things they need, to lead people to go and fight and get injured and die is not a joke. It was a difficult responsibility. And that's why the trust, when we came back home, the trust we had in him, the faith we had in him, that he will lead us to independence was very, very, very strong.
Thank you for sharing that, Your Excellency. Now, you headed a number of portfolios as minister, but one that stands out is when you were the Minister of Finance. Inter alia, you introduced the medium-term expenditure framework to help curb government spending.
Okay, let me go back to Walvis Bay.
Very well. Let's go back to Walvis Bay briefly. Yeah.
Quickly, Walvis Bay. I went to office at 9 o'clock. I was the Prime Minister's office, and Prime Minister Gaingop was telling me how he did not sleep well, and I was worried. In our years of independence, and the Prime Minister, the strongest figure and the confidant of the President Nyoma, is trusted with administration, cabinet work, and so on. If he's not feeling well, then we are really in trouble. After some talking around, he told me.
The reason for not feeling well?
Yes, he told me that he was called to State House the evening before. He found Dr. Nyoma there and Theoben Gurirab. They have already decided who to send to Walvis Bay. And he was the one who was saying, now you are taking me, the person who have been with me in the office. What do you want to are you a sabotage, are you indirectly sabotaging the Prime Minister's office or what? He was told, either give us somebody now or your man in the office has to go to Walvis Bay tomorrow. So he told me at 9. I tried to call my wife. She was working at the Ministry of Health. She said she was too busy to see me, to have lunch with me.
And you had important news to share.
So I have to rush to her and tell her before it was announced at 1 o'clock. Decision taken, no consultation, you are assigned. So I went. And luckily, things work out. I have worked under Nyoma, I work under Mahwididi, who was the boss or bosses in Walvis Bay. I work under Comrade Pohamba, I work under Comrade Gangop. So here I am.
Here you are, Your Excellency. Thank you for sharing the story of Walvis Bay with us. Now, moving to your portfolio as the Minister of Finance, introducing inter alia the medium-term expenditure framework that certainly helped curb government spending. What is it that stands out for you of your tenure as Minister of Finance specifically?
Yeah. Ministry of Finance, luckily, I came there and I was there for 7.5 years. It was the longest time in those days before Comrade Kugangoro Amadira came there. So it was quite, and we have to be honest to ourselves. I was not there because I was an expert on money. I was good at figures. That's all that counted. As a science teacher, I can count.
Yes.
Okay? But within a year or so, we start now thinking seriously about the economy of the country, the budgeting issues. We have meetings of the Commonwealth, finance ministers. We have meetings of the World Bank and IMF. We learn quickly in those meetings.
It's not only about counting.
It's no longer just counting. It's a policy matters. And therefore, it became necessary that you don't only budget for a longer term, no, for 1 year. You budget for 3 years so that you know exactly which project are you going to fund this year, which project are you going to continue funding, which new projects are going to come in. So you have a bigger, a larger wheel to drive, not just a little money here. And that was very, very important. It's still one of my best ministries, except one.
We'll get to that one in a bit. Thank you, Your Excellency. We'll take another short break and we'll be right back. Welcome back. You tune into a very special broadcast. We're sitting down with the 4th President, Dr. Nangolo Mbumba, to walk us through the highlights of his journey spanning over 83 years. Your Excellency, a significant day in the history of this country, but a very solemn and sad day, was Sunday, 4 February 2024, when you assumed to the highest office under incredibly difficult circumstances. But you had a very important message for Namibians, namely that we won't see you running for office in November this year, and that there was no reason to panic. Why was it important to make that clear on that day already?
In the first place, there were 3 people in government who were born in the same year, 1941. First one is the Speaker of the National Assembly, Dr. Peter Kachavivi. The second one was the President of the Republic, Dr. Hage G. Geingob. The third one was Nangolo Mbumba, who was the Vice President. And all of three of us have decided long time ago that this will be our last terms. We are going to retire, write, farm, travel, be free for the first time. And when it happened, it really hit us very hard. Not to talk about what we went through the week. He had to travel looking for better medication, and when he has to come back, and when you have to visit him in the hospital. And it was not easy at all. And that morning, when I announced it in the night, and now when we have to call the cabinet meeting in the same day, and I must give credit to some members of the cabinet. They were much stronger than I was. I was hit hard because I lost a brother, I lost a friend, I lost a leader I trusted, and we were planning many things together. We used to sit in this room here and weigh deputy ministers, governors, ministers, this portfolio, that portfolio. President don't treat their vice president that way. Vice president, you are given your assignment, you go. Other people come and get their lead. No, with Dr. Geingob, we decide certain things together, okay? And that was how close we were. They were the one who decided, I have to take an oath. I said, what? Can't we wait until Tuesday? Because it was a Sunday. Because we have a cabinet. Then we call the press, and I say, no. You can't have a country without a head of state, without a commander-in-chief, so you have to take it. So I give them credit for doing that. And therefore, really, I did not have to think twice that somehow I want to hang around after this. These decisions were taken long time before. And if I have to, you already said I'm 83. And if I have to become a president at 83, 5 years from now, I will be 88. One of the problems, maybe also either the strength or the weakness, is I am a student of life science. I am a student of biology. Biology, you can't cheat it. Sooner or later,
you know how the body works.
It will catch up with you. So this is a duty I have to take. This is a duty I have to do. But I'm not going to invite more problems in my life.
In accordance with biology?
According to biology, I must respect that time. Okay.
Very well, Your Excellency. Another matter that you are also very clear about relates to continuity, and that your mission is to complete Dr. Geingob's term. From where you sit, what would you make of what still needs to happen before March 2025? What is it that we still need to focus on that must still be completed?
Okay. I could have come in and tried to create my own cabinet. Change them. I have the power. Once the president takes the oath, he has the power, okay? But this was not my term of office I won in an election. And therefore, I took other colleagues in cabinet as my colleagues and friends and comrades to finish the task. Dr. Geingob started many things. Our relationship as a country, whether you go in African countries or European countries or Americans, they knew Namibia has a president called Hage Geingob. They know. You can't talk to him in others and tell Hage Geingob all kind of stories. He will know them. You can't take him to New York. He grew up around there and he know how UN system work. We are talking about the green hydrogen now because he was able to get the idea, start it quickly, and get those who are younger people who have studied this type of things and make them part of his team. He is the one who took James Newpe and say, let this young man tell you something about green hydrogen. It was during his time that we discovered this oil. And we have now to change the country's economy. We have to work hard. We are now sending people to universities in Germany for science and engineering and geology and all kinds of things.
It must make a science teacher so happy.
Yeah, very good. So when we talk about completing the term of office, his last year of office, it's not because we don't have ideas of our own. If something is not broken, don't start tinkling with it. If we were in a crisis, decision I can take. I have taken decision of life and death in exile and now. I am not worried about not taking decision, but I'm not going to be forced to take decision I don't want to take and I cannot live with. So Dr. Gaingop is even some of the things we are experiencing now, even where you are seated, is his brain power that created those institutions, so that we have institution of government, we have the processes, we have institution that can stand the test of time. So in that one, I will be happy to complete his term, his last year, knowing that Namibia is at peace, Namibia is stable, Namibia is improving, that Namibian children are going to school, not the best of school yet, but we are continue to improve. We are, for the first time, we are training medical doctors. There was a time when you talk about doctors in Namibia, at least in terms of my history, Dr. Libertina Madira, Dr. Yambo Indongo, Dr. Nikki Yambo, finish. Now you don't even know the doctors. If they show up, they're just looking like other younger people. So we are making progress, maybe not to the extent we want, but as a country, Namibia was among the last country to gain their independence, but we have remained strong. And therefore, as we move now to the bigger day, 27 November.
Wednesday, 27 November, indeed, Your Excellency.
That one will test us. Do we truly believe in democracy?
Why are you saying that, Your Excellency?
No, I'm saying it will test us and show us how, let me turn the other way around, how well we accept that we are a democratic country, that everybody who has a chance to vote, they must vote for the candidate of their choice and the party of their choice. That's democracy.
The 1904-1908 genocide is a very sensitive matter.
Very, very.
Talk to us about that, your perspective and where we're at and where we need to be.
History is very, very clear that what the Imperial Germany did in Namibia is genocide. It is very clear, nobody can hide away from that. Neither a German person, not a Namibian person, not anybody else can deny that. Because of the colonial experience we had. Germany was here, 1915, Germany left, South African came in, they continue, and we remain a people under the bondage of other people. It was after Namibia's independence that the Parliament of Namibia has to get involved. The community have to tell the Parliament, this question remain unresolved. And Chief Kwaimari Wako was one of those principal architects. it was Dr. Gainkop who advised him, saying, look, the best way to deal with this, you can take it to Parliament. Then you get a resolution by the majority of Namibians present in Parliament, not because of just one community group or whatever, but it was all Namibians who decided to confront Germany and to negotiate. The process had been long. It has been very, very difficult. We lost other people who were involved. Now, we have some form of documents that indicate we can make some progress. The Germans did not want to accept the word genocide, and now they are using it themselves. They are ready to come. Their president is ready to come and apologize to all Namibians, especially the community that have been heavily affected, the Namas and Hereros. It's very clear. But there are certain things we have not yet tied, the loose end that need to be tied. One, Germany has to have a resolution in Parliament that they accept that they are ready. The word now reparation become a very big question, because they don't want reparation because of their other history with other countries. But they are ready to give something. Whether the issue is now the language, there is a language issue that we need to clear. We must have a text that is clear. What happened is genocide. What is being given is reparation because of what the damage caused, the land taken, lives lost, and everything. Ox, cows, everything, especially the lives of people and the land, their land. There is no doubt about that. But we have not reached there. We have made some progress, but we have not reached there. We will continue to work on it until such a time. We have also decided that whatever happens, we are not going to allow it to divide our nation. We have fought too hard to reach independence, to become and remain one country because of that. But we will work hard together with traditional leaders, political parties, academicians who know the information well, so that until we reach a resolution. One day we will overcome, and one day we will have an agreement with the Germans as to this question of genocide.
Thank you, Your Excellency. Earlier you shared with us that you reaffirmed that, in fact, that one of the hallmarks of the Gainkop presidency was inclusivity, and he included young people at the table. There's another school of thought contending that young people want to have dinner at breakfast already. They want to run before they're even able to crawl or to walk. What's your take on young people and how they assert themselves?
If you are young and you cannot walk fast, if you are young and you cannot talk tough, if you are young and you cannot demand things, when are you going to demand them? So we should not blame young people for demanding what they are demanding, for being in a hurry. The only thing is, I learned one lesson from Zambia. We were young, refugee, we know very much. And one minister told us, at least you Namibian youngsters, if one day you want to be leaders, at least be disciplined followers. It is not just that you want to be the one who is going to be a leader. You don't become a leader because you want to be a leader. You don't become a leader simply because you want to be to be the one chairing the meeting. Learning, educating yourself, training yourself, organizing your life to be able to do those things you need to do is more important Because there have been people who one day are in this job, one day are in the other party, one day they are in the other whatever. Sometimes they are religious leaders, sometimes they are political leaders, sometimes they are militant, sometimes they are whatever. Those things will not help you. But the youth, it is their responsibility to prepare themselves as individuals, as communities, as families, and to be able to take the leadership, no matter how difficult that leadership role will entail.
Including making noise as young people.
If you cannot make noise, yes, then you are finished.
Indeed, Your Excellency. On Sunday, we celebrate another significant milestone when our second president, Dr. Mbumba, will celebrate his 89th birthday. Do you perhaps have a brief message for him?
Very good. Comrade Mbumba, President Mbumba, many, 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 many happy returns of your blessed birthday. President Mbumba has done a lot of things. He was the first person I met in exile as already a leader. They left from Namibia, already leaders, to establish their offices. We met at the Kazungula Bridge, the Kazungula on the Botswana side. For a long time, he was SWAPO Finance Secretary, or sometimes called Treasurer. He appointed me to the ministry. I said, it's only second to me in terms of finance. Safety and security. Yeah, it teaches you discipline. No, these guys cannot tell me stories. Okay? One thing that happened is when Dr. Gaingob declined to be the Chancellor of the University of Namibia, the two of them decided that I become Chancellor. The two of them, Gaingob and Mbumba, decided that. During that crisis, he was the only one who could. He walked and came to me at Old State House. I cannot tell you what he told me, but he gave me the courage, the patience, and determination to stand up under pressure with tears in eyes, but still able to function and to take decisions. So many, many, many happy returns to the one only, Mbumba. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Your Excellency. Many Namibians will hold this against me if I don't ask our president this.
Okay.
What is our president's most favorite meal, and what do you do for fun, Your Excellency, if anything at all?
My favorite meal, I know that's not a fair question. I eat everything. I am a former refugee. I am a former freedom fighter. I eat everything. But every member of my family will tell you, my favorite thing is bread. Because there was a time in Angola when bread was not available at all. Okay? That is okay. Bread, pap. I also learned how to like and love fish and seafood. Of course, as an African and as a Namibian, I love my steak.
And for breakfast, what would you ordinarily have, Your Excellency?
Pap or bread.
Very well.
Yeah.
And does the head of state of this republic have fun?
Okay. I have a lot of things. I like sports. I like to walk. I like to climb even mountain. I have on my farm there is 2 or 3 mountains I can climb and call my wife, say, look at me, I am on the top of the mountain. So I like those things. I like plants, but my wife beat me to the game. I like animals, and I bought ostriches brought them to my farm. They are not doing so well, but it is nice to not only to have cows and goats and sheep, but at least some ostriches and guinea fowls and other birds.
Diversifying agriculture.
Yes. But as a former teacher, I love to read magazines or books, and I think the best way to educate oneself is to look for books that teach you all kinds of things, from politics to philosophy to economy to science, and those they keep your mind very, very clear about certain things.
Your Excellency, allow me to please, on behalf of myself, the crew, the entire Namibian Broadcasting Corporation, but certainly the country at large, commit the common law offense of theft and steal your words to President Pohamba, and wish you also many, 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 many happy returns. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for your great leadership and service to this republic.
Thank you for being such a kind gentleman. Thank you.
You're welcome, Your Excellency. And that draws to a close this very special broadcast commemorating 83 years of Dr. Nangolo Mbumba. Good night.